Hello, my name is Ashton, and today for my critical play video I will be speaking on the game Papers, Please and how it deals with morality. The indie title was created by Lucas Pope in 2013 and in the following year won an award for Best Game at the BAFTAs, or the British Awards for Film and TV. The game has you play as an immigration officer at the border of Arstotzka, a fictional Soviet nation following their 6-year war with Kulture. The game has you process people's passport information from the oncoming immigrants who stand out in the cold. The game initially has you complete simple tasks of denying entry to non-citizens of Arstotzka and letting in all with Arstotzkan passports. However, as the game continues, the requirements for admission widen and constrict daily. This leads to checking multiple documents for any invalid information, with the price for failure a penalty on your pay. This brings in another mechanic of the home life that you interact with every day. You go home to your family with rent, food, heating, and the occasional sickness throwing spanner in the works of your budget, which can play into the morality of the situations you face in your career. Messing up an immigration screening test costs you money that could go to your family and their needs. However, in the game, Papers, Please gives you situations that play into your own sense of morality. For example, a man and his wife are coming into the country together. At the same time, the husband's credentials are correct, but the wife's information is out of date. So under the policy of Arstotzka, and to guarantee your family receives more money at the end of the day, do you break apart this family at the border? Should the border be upheld in a self-interest of you and your country? Or instead, should you look beyond the laws of borders to the humans standing in front of you? Now, living in a country where the current administration looks upon refugees with contempt and avid cruelty, like the Prime Minister featuring a boat trophy in his office, with the words, "I stopped these," plastered on it. Papers, Please therefore asks the question of the morality of borders. Critique of the nature of nationalism and isolationism that borders produce has been a long-tested form of analysis against sovereign states. An example of the nationalism that is seen in this game comes in the form of the slogan "Glory to Arstotzka." A phrase that is notorious with the game and is featured many times throughout it. The slogan has even become a joke to YouTubers playing the game, seeing it as a fun, quirky side effect of Soviet life, rather than a blatant showing of nationalism to which the authoritarian regime demands the utterance to show as a sign of servitude. Similar to swearing the allegiance to the flag in America, or singing the national anthem at sports events here in Australia. Men and women are barred from entry due to the isolationism of Arstotzka, But after the policy of isolationism is lifted, the state and the public can find a suitable group to blame for the terrorism plaguing the nation. Rather than placing the blame on the policies of the authoritarian government of Arstotzka and viewing the terrorists as civil unrest in an unjust system, the policy of immigration is blamed. Later, the player is introduced to a shadowy organization named the Order of the Ezek Star. The Order tasks the player with orders for the resistance against the current regime. The task ranges from not allowing in an official with the proper papers to the assassination of political figures. The player takes an active role in the murders of these individuals. One task asks the player to gun down an individual in the crowd. The player can also hit other innocent immigrants attempting to enter the country with the weapon in the attempt. This returns us to the topic of morality that the game provides. Is fighting against the system in this way morally good? The government of Arstotzka has the hallmarks of an Eastern Bloc nation, with its hammer emblem and the use of labor lottery, which was a feature of the planned economies of the Warsaw Pact. Its police force invokes the image of Stasi, and the names of the countries like Arstotzka, Oberstan, and the United Federation all have nods to Slavic and Soviet nations. The reference to totalitarianism is that you are under surveillance, which is no different from the way we are currently living in Australia. So is it morally right to murder a person under the pretext that a shadowy figure from an apparent resistant organization asks you to? All in the name of freedom, when there had been multiple instances of previous freedom fighters using non-violent means against the oppressive governments they inhabited. For example, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Eddie Koikimabo, and even Soviet examples like the student and punk protesters of East Berlin. Are you a hero for poisoning that investigator, or simply a typical murderer? You kill these people. There is no subjectivity to it. Their game pulls no punches. The game has multiple endings based on how you play, which either feature the player in prison, heralding a new revolution, complying with the government's mandate and being rewarded, or the player fleeing to the neighboring nation of Oberstan and standing in front of a border patrol with faked documents, bringing the entire game full circle. Which brings us to the question of, so what? Why play a game where you inspect passports all day, finding minute details to bar people from coming into a nation? Well, Papers, Please is a game of morality and determines what is correct to the player and the player alone. All actions you undertake are yours. No kind of dialogue option like in other games. Actions alone determine your morality. The fact that you play on the border and allow or forbid the entry of immigrants is relevant to today's political climate. Messages of fear towards immigrants are seen in the media of Papers, Please and our own. With climate change fixed to only intensify the refugee crisis and our current government hell-bent on turning back the boats. I would propose this game allows us to see the human behind the headline and to take a dive into the stories of immigrants torn apart at the border. Additionally, I would like to hand this game off to politicians for an hour to see whether they can gain anything from their experience, especially Peter Dutton. Also, the game puts the morality of regular resistance against governments into perspective. I like the more neoliberal war propaganda of titles like Call of Duty and Battlefield. Papers, Please gives you the option to kill or not. The game also recontextualizes whether or not we are living in a similar state to Arstotzka and whether we should reflect upon our own border policies. The game does an amazing job at rewiring the brain of the player in order to look at a passport and try to find a reason to reject the immigrant from coming into the nation rather than looking for reasons that they should stay. In Papers, Please, those seeking to cross the border into Arstotzka are seen as guilty until proven innocent, much in the same way that those trying to get into Australia are guilty until proven innocent. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.